You blamed someone this week for something that went wrong, for why you are not further along, for how you feel. And the moment you did, something inside you relaxed. Because if it is their fault, it is not your responsibility. The moment you blame the world, you surrender your power to change it. Here is what nobody's telling you. Every time you assign blame, you give away control, not because blame is immoral, because it makes you powerless, by the way. This isn't about toxic positivity. Positivity without ownership is delusion. What I am going to show you is how responsibility creates the only freedom that matters. The Japanese had a principle for this. Not optimism, ownership. Jiko Sekinin. By the end, you'll practice this once tomorrow. Take responsibility for one thing you've been blaming on others, own one outcome you've been avoiding, and you'll feel what sovereignty actually is. In the next 10 minutes, I am going to show you exactly why blame is keeping you weak, and how total ownership transforms everything. If this already feels necessary, you belong here. Consider subscribing and walk this path with the Last Ronin. Something didn't go your way this week, not catastrophic, just disappointing. And you immediately found someone to blame. The system, your boss, your partner. Bad timing, whoever was convenient. And it felt good, because blaming someone else meant you didn't have to examine yourself. Notice how automatic that was. You've been externalizing responsibility for so long, you think it is how you process failure. This morning you are behind on something, important thing, should have been done by now. And you have a list of reasons why it is not. I didn't have enough time. They didn't give me what I needed. The circumstances weren't right. All of it might be true, but none of it helps you move forward. Because the moment you blame external factors, you lose the ability to change them. You are waiting for conditions to improve, for people to change, for the system to be fair. And while you wait, nothing moves. Right, now you are carrying resentment. Towards someone who let you down, toward circumstances that didn't align, toward life for not being easier. And that resentment feels justified. But justified resentment is still powerless. This is the mechanism that keeps you stuck. Every time you blame, you trade power for comfort. The comfort of being right. The comfort of being the victim. The comfort of not having to change. But comfort without power is just slow surrender. You watch others move forward, and you explain why they have advantages you don't. Better circumstances, better support, better luck. Maybe that is true, but it doesn't matter. Because while you are explaining why they're ahead, they're still moving, and you are still blaming. This is your pattern, not inability, abdication. You are refusing to own what is yours, and what you don't own, you can't change. This is where you get stuck. The Last Ronin had no one to blame. No master to guide him, no clan to protect him, no advantage to lean on, just himself. And he understood something you refuse to accept. Blame is a luxury he couldn't afford, because blame keeps you waiting for external change. And when you are alone, there is no external change. Only what you do. That is Jiko Sekinin, total personal responsibility. This is where most men misunderstand ownership. They think it is about guilt. It is about power. The Ronin didn't blame his circumstances for being hard. He owned his response to them. He didn't blame his enemies for being ruthless. He owned his preparation. He didn't blame fate for his losses. He owned what he built from them, not because he caused everything that happened to him, but because blaming what happened kept him powerless. Right now you are doing the opposite. You are deflecting responsibility for everything difficult. Failed relationship, their fault. Career not progressing. Systems rigged. Health declining. No time. Every deflection feels reasonable. But every deflection is surrender. The Ronin walked through exile, loss, defeat, and carried one belief. If something must change, it begins with me. Not because he was responsible for what happened. Because he was responsible for what happened next. That is the distinction you are missing. You can't control what life does to you, but you can own how you respond. And your response is the only thing that shapes your future. Blame shapes nothing. It just gives you someone to resent while your life stays the same. If this is already naming something you feel, stay with me, because in 2 minutes, I am going to show you exactly how ownership creates freedom. You've been waiting for conditions to change, but conditions don't change until you do, and you can't change while blaming. Your ego needs blame to survive, not because it is malicious, because blame protects your self-image. Watch what happens when something goes wrong. You immediately scan for external causes. Brain, what outside me explains this? Not, what did I miss? Not, what could I have done differently? Just, whose fault is this? And once you find someone, relief. Because now it is not your problem to solve, it is their problem to fix. Someone and criticizes your work grain. They don't understand. They're biased. They're wrong. Immediate defense, not because they're actually wrong, because accepting they might be right means accepting you need to improve. And improvement requires work. Blame requires nothing. You are behind where you want to be. Brain, I didn't have the same opportunities, the system is against me. I started too late. Maybe true, but completely useless. You did this today, probably multiple times. Your ego wants you to believe external factors control your life. Because if external factors control your life, you are not responsible for changing it. You can just wait. And waiting feels better than owning, so your brain generates explanations that preserve your comfort while ensuring nothing changes. I would have succeeded if. It is not my fault that they should have. Each sentence is a small surrender. A tiny abdication of power, and after years of small surrenders, you look around and realize you've been blaming your way into stagnation. This is why you can be smart and still stay stuck. You are not stuck because you don't know better. You are stuck because you've convinced yourself it is not your fault, and not your fault means not your power. So you stay powerless, justified, explained, comfortable. But powerless stay with me. This changes how tomorrow works. Here is what the Ronin knows that you refuse to accept. The more you own, the more you control. Even when something isn't your fault, making it your responsibility gives you power over it. That is Jiko Sekinin, not fair. Powerful. Here is the law: own everything in your path. Not because you caused it, because owning it lets you change it. If it is in your life, it is your responsibility. This is the shift that creates sovereignty. You can't do this yet because you are still protecting your ego. Every failure needs an external explanation. Every setback needs someone to blame. Every difficulty needs a story about why it is not your fault. The Ronin trained differently. Something goes wrong, he owns it immediately, not to punish himself, to empower himself. Because the moment he owns it, he can act on it. The moment he blames it, he has to wait for someone else to fix it. And waiting is powerless. Until ownership became automatic, until his default response to any problem was, what is my responsibility here? Here is how you start. Tomorrow, not eventually, tomorrow something will go wrong, and your first impulse will be to find who or what to blame. Don't pause, ask, what is my responsibility here? Not, is this my fault, but what can I own that gives me power to change this? Then own that completely. That is one rep of Jiko Sekinin, and the moment you own something instead of blaming it, power returns. Not because the situation changed, because you stopped waiting for someone else to change it. Last time we spoke of senshin, cleaning the mind of residue. But a clean mind without Jiko Sekinin is just a clean room with no doors. You are still a prisoner if you do not own the keys. Relationship conflict. Something goes wrong. You are upset, old pattern. They should have known better. They always do this. This is their fault. Result. Nothing changes. The pattern repeats. You stay resentful. New pattern. What is my responsibility here? What did I not communicate? What pattern am I allowing? Own your part, then act. The relationship shifts because you stopped waiting for them to fix it. Career stagnation, you are not progressing. Frustrated old pattern. My boss doesn't recognize me. The system is unfair. I don't have the right connections. Result. You stay stuck. Years pass, resentment grows. New pattern. What can I own? My skill level, my visibility, my network. Own what you can change, then change it. Your career moves because you stopped blaming conditions. Health declining, you are not where you want to be physically. Old pattern, I don't have time. Work is too demanding. My metabolism changed. Result, it gets worse. You feel helpless. New pattern. What is mine to own? My schedule, my choices, my priorities. Own it. Then act. Your health improves because you stopped blaming time. Project failure, something you worked on didn't succeed. Old pattern, the team let me down. The timing was bad. The market shifted. Result, you learn nothing. The next project fails the same way. New pattern. What was my responsibility? What did I miss? What could I have controlled? Own it. Learn, adjust. The next project succeeds because you owned the failure. Financial struggle. Money is tight, stressed, old pattern. The economy, my salary, expenses are too high. Result, nothing changes. The stress continues. New pattern. What can I own? My spending, my earning, my financial education. Own what is yours. Then improve it. Your finances shift because you stopped blaming the economy. Here is what changes when you practice total ownership. You stop waiting for conditions to improve. You stop resenting people who won't change. You stop feeling helpless. Old you needed external factors to align before you could move. New you moves regardless of external factors. Old you blamed circumstances for being stuck. New you owns your response to circumstances. This isn't about fault. This is Jiko Sekinin. Radical responsibility. Almost no one operates this way anymore. A warrior with a sword owns every outcome of battle. A warrior with excuses owns nothing. People sense it before they understand it. You don't complain the same way anymore. Don't blame automatically. Don't wait for others to fix things. You just own, then act, and that creates momentum others can't match. Something goes wrong and you immediately ask, what is mine here? Someone fails you and you ask, what did I allow? They'll ask, why don't you blame anyone? You won't have a dramatic answer. You just own everything in your path. That is the difference between a man who reacts to life and a Ronin who authors it. Own, act, repeat, until responsibility became your default. Until you stopped surrendering power through blame. That is Jiko Sekinin, and once you have it, helplessness ends. Because you've claimed authority over everything in your life. Not by controlling it, but by owning your response to it. The Last Ronin doesn't blame his circumstances. He owns his response to them. And what remains is power. You've seen now what most men never practice, that freedom isn't found in perfect conditions. It is forged through total ownership. But ownership without a purified mind is just a heavy burden. If you missed our training on Senshin, you are trying to own a world you haven't even cleared yet. If you are ready to stop being a victim of your own history and start being the architect of your future, you belong here. Subscribe. And let's get to work. The sovereign version of you isn't waiting for circumstances to change. It was always here. Now you own it. Clear the mind first, then move.